On 5th September 1933, in Mumbai, a child was born in the house of Muhammad Yusuf Mia Khandwani, who later came to known as Abdullah Khandwani. People lovingly called him Bulbul. Through his work, Abdullah Khandwani brought fame to India both nationally and internationally. And because of his work and creativity, he gave India a new identity.
My name is Abdullah Khandwani. I was born on 5th September 1933 in Bombay. At Muhammad Ali Road, we had a large flat in a huge building. It was just before sunrise. So people said I was a lucky child. And from there on, of course, I was growing up, I was young. And after some years, my mother died. And my sister was taking care of me until she died I grew up well, but after some years, I was 3-4 years old and I got very bad asthma problem. So various doctors were consulted and they were giving me medicines and the asthma wouldn't slow down. So some of my father's friend suggested to him that you take this Bulbul to Burhanpur. Why he suggested Burhanpur? My family didn't know. So we went to Burhanpur and we were living in a nearby station. We had a chawl-like place which we rented. But then very soon we came to know about a very beautiful bungalow. Bungalow means a big palace-like place which was near Tapti Nadi. So nobody was staying close to the mazar. But this bungalow was about maybe 50 yards, 40 yards away from there. And my father and uncles and all, we said it was a beautiful place, a huge place, and a small garden, and then the garden looked down into the river, Tapti river. So we moved there. So one day, my sister and I were a guest in a family where suddenly I got this attack of asthma. So one of the ladies suggests, "Arey, yes, aisa theek na ho be, it will not get all right like this. You take him to the station wala doctor, where he." So my sister said, where is that doctor? Call him just now. I said, no, you will have to go to him. So we went to him. And this asthma was with me for almost from my young age to about 7 or 8 or 9. So we went to the doctor. So this doctor looked at me, looked at my pulse, and he said, okay, So he started to prepare an injection. And I saw the injection and I was afraid. So afraid, and then as soon as he was coming near to me, I started running. Finally, he caught me and he injected me. Gave me an injection, and after maybe 10 or 12 days after that injection, until today, I have never had asthma. So we are in Burhanpur and our bungalow was just close to the mazar of Shah Mansoor Shah Sahab. And I used to go there, open the door and go. So my uncle said, no, beta, you shouldn't do like that. Go to the gate, which was very low, one has to bend down and go, and say, Mansoor Shah Sahab, main aun? I would say, Assalamu alaikum, Mansoor Shah Sahab, may I come? And he would say, Wa alaikum salam, aao beta. This my ears would hear, and I would go in and keep the flower. So that was a very rare thing that happened in my life. We came to Bombay, and after few months, my uncle came from Makkah. We had from my grandfather's time, we had a stay in Makkah. We had a big house, 5-story building, just attached to the Haram Sharif. And my uncle came and he said, I was very bright. I used to pick up things. I used to listen to poetry and remember it. So my memory was not bad. So he said, let me take this boy to Makkah. So my sister said, if it is for his betterment, I will bear the weight of my heart. So anyway, I went to Makkah, and my uncle had his family, 3-4 daughters, and the other. So I was quite mixed up with them, and I was very fond of going to the Haram Sharif and doing tawaf, the Kaaba, and people do tawaf there. So my attention towards religion started there. So I would go and make tawaf, come and do that and this. One day, I was opening a box and my hand cut, and 2-3 drops of blood fell. And the next day, there came a telegram from my sister. What has happened to Bulbul's hand? Is he hurt? I'm talking about the deep love of my sister towards me. She could feel that I had cut my hand, but it was all right, and the life started to roll. So in Makkah, a friend of mine, a friend of uncle who had come, had brought a camera, Rolleiflex, the best camera there was. So he gave me, take photographs. And photography was not allowed at that time. Photography, if they see a camera, they would break the camera right in front of the gate of the Haram, and there was also a penalty. But I took the camera inside, and King Faisal. So I took my camera and went there and just stood there to take his picture. So the police came, boom, and they used to. So the king said, he just did like that, and they all went away. And I took his picture. So King Faisal's picture is still with me, and from there on, my photography started. But then what do I do with the camera and the film? So there was only studio in Makkah who would take pictures of people who needed pictures for their passport or some other reasons. So I went to him. He took the roll out and developed it, and he said, "Okay, you want to come and see?" I said, yes. So he took me in the room, but it was a dark room and a very little red light burning, because film is very sensitive to this and it is not sensitive to red light. So I saw that, and he put the few chemicals, and the photographs was ready. So I said, my God, I should learn this. I have learnt it, I said. Then I took some chemicals from him in 3 bottles. My sister had a lot of negatives. So she gave me some negatives, and I said, give me, I'll make positives out of it. So where will I make the dark room? So she had a sewing machine. So I said, okay, I'll sit under the sewing machine. You know, the big one where you stitch with the pedestal there. So I sat on that and covered myself with, we call that kapda, which was thick so the light would not come in. And I would just put the negative in the hole and put my hand out and bring it in. And when I develop it, it would become dark. So I said, I think I'm giving a little less light. So I would keep it out for a couple of more minutes, and it would get darker and darker. But one day when the negative and the positive were together out, a mosquito bit me, and I just pulled my hand in. And I put it in the developer. And the picture came out absolutely all right. And I say, hey, I was giving more light to it. It should be given a little less light. And from there on, my interest in photography increased. And when we came back to Bombay, I created my own dark room. And then I started to make large enlargements, big ones. So I brought a, what is it called, enlarger. You put the negative, take the thing up, and the light would fall bigger. So if you have a bigger paper, it would give you a big image. So I did that, I was doing that, and I was smart enough to catch up on such things very easily. One enlargement that I made was very good, and there was this Kodak company. One of the great men of Kodak was in my studio, and he saw my doing the enlargements. So he gave me an order for making a large enlargement. They gave me a negative, and they didn't have the capacity to make such big enlargements, which I had, unfortunately, and it was my own creation. And I made a 9 feet by 7 feet enlargement, which was the first time that such a big enlargement was made in my studio. And it stayed in Kodak House for years together. So this was about my photography, and then I joined JJ School of Art. My cousin suggested that you become an architect. You are playing with mechano, you are doing painting. So why don't you become architect? At JJ School of Art, there are 6 departments. Just join architecture. So I went and met the dean there, but my qualifications were not just enough for me to get the admission. So he said, okay, we'll see. You join fine arts, and we'll see when the time comes, I'll call you to get into architecture. So I joined JJ School of Art, where I was learning painting and drawing, and the teachers were very happy with me, and my photography was good. So I said, there was no department of photography in fine arts department. There are various departments in School of Art, but in this fine arts building, the photography was not introduced. So I said, allow me to make a dark room, I said to the dean. So he allowed me to make a dark room, and with my own expense, I made a big dark room. I had an enlarger, and then I taught the students. Then all the professors there, they said, we also want to learn the darkroom work. So I used to teach the professors also how to you make the photography. So photography in fine arts department was introduced by me. And I felt very proud of it. So in JJ School of Art was studying a student, her name was Menaka Thakkar. So we were very friends, and Menaka Thakkar was Sudha Thakkar's sister, younger sister. So she would talk about me to Sudha, that is the most popular one there. And she understands dance, because when we have the annual function, we would have dance programs, and Menka would dance. She was a very good dancer. So Sudha heard about me, and she, hearing about me, just was curious to meet me. So she said, bring Khandwani to our place. They used to live in Bandra. At Santa Cruz, near station. They had a bungalow. So I went to meet her, and Sudha's mother served me with something, and Sudha was very kind to listen to me. She herself was a lawyer. Sudha's father was a lawyer, and Sudha's father's brother was a high court judge. So the educated family was really very highly educated. But Sudha and I, when we met, we clicked in a very different way. Sudha was teaching at National College, drama, theatre, and art. So after a while, when we became friends, we said, India, we have seen India. Where we have seen India, we have seen Bombay. Some people have seen it in Calcutta. Some people have seen it in Ahmedabad. But is that India? Or India is in its interiors? What about the thousands of people living in the inside of India? Do they all have connection with the modern world or anything? So the idea clicked to both of us that we must pick up the smallest possible luggage on us and get into the interiors. So we just started to penetrate into the interiors, and we went into such interiors where people had not even seen a bicycle. And there we would eat whatever they would prepare. We would live there, sleep in their courtyard with our chadar. We had only 2 chadars, one to put on our body, and the other to sleep on. We didn't carry a lot of luggage so that we would feel heavy. And we went village to village and studied them, and I would photograph and photograph and photograph. And when the festival would come, there was one place called Tarnetar. There was a temple of Trineteshwar Mahadev. And that festival was for 7 days, where it was a festival of lovers. Can you imagine? A lovers festival. So all who were connected to somehow or the other in their even older age, the old lady and the old father would also come. The youngsters would also come without any hesitation or without any disagreement from their fathers or brothers or sisters, everything. But it was a pure meeting of lovers. They would sit, talk to each other, and it would go on for 7 days. So we attended that and we took lots of pictures. And talking of pictures, I have 140,000 photographs. So we went to Canada. With all the 140,000 pictures. But an idea came to my mind that if we blow the pictures, people come see pictures, they walk around the gallery, and by the time they have left, the impression of the first picture is half gone. So I said, let me study the mind, what capacity mind has to retain the image that it has seen and for how long. So I made a little study. So mind has a capacity to grasp so much, but the retention power is less. It sees something, it goes in the mind, but then it starts to fade out after a few days or few hours, depending about an individual. So I said, if we are showing the slides, one slide, then it goes, so there is a gap between one slide and the other slide comes in, there is a gap of little dark, and the mind has already started to forget. So I said, why don't we use a multi-image presentation? 3 projectors. Since we have such large amount of pictures, we can make a story, just the mind to study what the story is being, not words, but the mind to listen to it. So I spent about 2-3 months arranging slides in such a manner that the 3 projectors could tell the story. And with 3 projectors, we would bring the audience, and there was never a show which did not have at least 4 minutes of standing ovation. So that's what we presented India to Canada.